Good morning. Welcome to the Camden City Board of Education's District Parent Advisory Council meeting for the month of April 2018. Today we are here at the Creative Arts High School, and we're going to ask Dr. Davita Cope-Brockington if she will come forth and give a greeting to you.
Thank you and good morning. Welcome to the Creative Arts Morgan Village Academy. We're very, very happy to have all of you here with us today. Again, Ms. Wilson, who always brings her meeting to Canva, we're always happy that she thinks of us, and we welcome you at any time. And we're just happy to see all of you. So welcome to Creative Arts. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Brockington. At this time, I'm going to ask Mr. Barfield if he will come up and introduce our special guest today from New Jersey School Boards. New Jersey School Boards is an organization that the Camden City Board of Education is a part of, as well as many other townships within the state of New Jersey. And so when we go out and we go to conferences or information is being given out, we connect through New Jersey School Boards. We also connect through the national school boards. So when I'm giving you information, we want to make sure that you're getting it directly from the source. So thank you. Mr. Barfield?
Good morning, everyone. Again, on behalf of the District Parent Advisory Council, we'd like to thank everyone for being here today. Our Vice President, Ms. Betty Thomas, she's been under the weather here lately, so usually she would be doing a welcome. So, on behalf of Ms. Thomas, her health has been failing her, but we all keep her in prayer. So with that being said, we want to again welcome school board representatives, Ms. Sharon Seiler and Mr. Michael Bernick, to do a presentation on the update of the ESSA. So we want to start with Ms. Sharon. And then as far as one of the housekeeping rules, we ask too that you can put your phones on vibrate. And then if you do have to take a call, please go exit and go to the hallway to take care of your business. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. It's great to see you all. I know I've seen you all before, I think most of you, and I actually commend you for coming out and coming to these meetings, because it's really good that you get firsthand knowledge of what's going on in your school district about your kids and what's going on in the community. I hear there's some questions about ESSA. That's why I think I was asked to come today. I have some other things I'd like to talk about, but if you have questions about ESSA, do you want to ask me directly and I try to answer it? Because right now we're at the point where we're actually implementing ESSA into the districts. We had a stakeholder meeting recently to talk about some data issues, but is there something specific that anyone wants to talk to me about the reauthorization?
Do you have a timeline for when it's supposed to be implemented within the district?
Well, we're in the process of now, but for the 18-19 school year, it would be a full implementation of the program. So we've talked about certain things that indicators that are part of ESSA. So we have the chronic absenteeism. We have how you're doing on your park scores. And actually, I looked at your website to see how you are doing, and everything is on the upswing. You've improved on your park results. I think they said there were 300 students now have achieved proficiency last year in the 2016-17 school year. But you went up from 14-15 to 16-17 quite a bit. And okay, so here's what's going on. You are going to participate in the summer food service meal program, which I think you've done before. Is that correct? Okay. And you're already involved in the Breakfast After the Bell program, correct? Okay. So there is legislation that's pending. I think it's gone through both Senate and Assembly now. I think we're just waiting to see if it gets signed. The breakfast and the meal program and the summer meal. Yeah, it's already gone through the Senate and Assembly. and we're waiting to see if the governor signs it. The legislation for the breakfast program says that if you have 70% of free and reduced students in your district, that that would be legislated that you would be automatically doing that. And there'd be no reason not to do that because the reimbursement on the breakfast programs pays for itself and then some, so you would actually be making money on the breakfast program. So it's actually worth it to you to do that. The summer meal program says if you have 50% free and reduced lunch students, you should do it. So automatically you would get involved in that as well, and I think that's great for the community. And I don't know how you decide where you have the locations to do that, but okay, through the school, and the schools would be open to do that, correct? Okay, all right. In your accountability, which Martha, you can help me with this a little bit. It says now that you have scored above 50% threshold in all areas and 80% in 2 of your measures. 2 of the measures are in operations and the other is in instruction. So, so that's great. Okay, this is the first time that you've gone above 50%. Okay, so this is great because this means now that the county does an accountability process for every district, and so now that you've gone over the 50% mark, it makes life a little easier for you as the school board. Okay, in governance, 70% score is based on your district's policy manual that you have a 37-point rise since 2011-12 because you overhauled your district's policy manual. So congratulations. And then one thing that I thought was very interesting is that you've gone down in school suspensions. Okay? You have a 72% reduction in number of school days missed due to suspension. So you've gained 6,642 additional instructional days. So that's great, obviously. Yes, okay, right? That is absolutely great. Okay, and just to get a little bit more specific about it, following the introduction of a new student code of conduct and district-wide training and support staff to keep students in school and learning. Camden Schools reduced overall student suspensions by 53% last year and achieved a 72% reduction in the number of school days. So that is awesome. That's really good. And you know, we talk about in ESSA chronic absenteeism and try to keep your kids in school, and this is one of the extra indicators that affects your report card in the school district. So obviously suspension, you don't want your kids out of the school. You want them in school and try to keep them in school, okay? Yesterday I was at a hearing in Trenton. We had a committee, the Joint Committee on Public Schools, and the discussion pertained to community schools. Do any of you have students that are in a community school? Okay. So I have a few questions, and we've talked a little bit. Who runs the community school? Can we discuss this a little bit? Yeah, she's going to help me out here a little bit.
Okay, so currently we have several schools in the district that are considered community schools, but in the future, more schools are going to be offered the chance to get trained to become a community school, and then also the existing community schools where NJEA is operating community schools in now, they're going to also be able to get enriched experiences and more training so that they're more prepared right now. But if your school is interested in becoming a community school, we're going to be available to answer any questions that you may have. You may be able to speak to your school leader about that as well. Thank you.
Get a little overview of. Can you tell me, in your schools, are your schools open after the school hours, regular school hours?
They're open for the after-school program.
Okay.
But a lot of times, my experience with parental involvement in the FOC over there is terrible. So like, we were supposed to have been setting up a pay. And I've been in communications and I volunteered my services to help form this pay. And they don't want to do it. my character was attacked. And I don't believe in like progress being made with being disrespectful. I just want to get the job done. So like this morning, when the board and the Parent Information Center, they had 2018 to 2019 PTO, and they said sign up and who's interested, and she put 1, 2, 3. So I was talking to another parent over there, and I asked her to sign the board, and the FOC was like, oh no, we're not moving forward with that. But it's like they always trying to use that she doesn't have the information, or oh, she was mistaken and that's the reason why our PAC wasn't formed, so that we can have it set up for 2018 and 2019. So I feel like the FOC just needs to be removed from that process when you have a parent ready, willing, and have the knowledge to move forward with forming that PAC and to get more parents. to come
Okay,
into
so
the
that's what I
community.
wanted to know. Is there's a parental involvement, there is, correct? Yes, okay.
It's supposed to be.
They're supposed to be, okay. So as of right now, there is or there isn't?
It's supposed to be, but every time I go over there, I'm met with resistance.
Okay, hold on a second, because I want to try to get a clear picture of what's going on.
Okay, within the last 2 weeks, spoken to Deputy Superintendent Katrina McCombs, and I met with her and some of her administration, and they have already, I gave her information that I brought back from Washington for the Advocacy Institute. So remember the shots, the pieces that we were showing you on screen. First, we showed you what the rules and regulations were,
Yes.
gave you what the school policies were.
Yes.
And so now we're in the process, a corrective action plan is being put in place to handle that area. So I spoke with the administration. Within 3 days, they came back to me with a plan.
Okay.
So I want to say that things are looking up. We'll begin to start to move forward, and just be patient with us. These are things that must take place, but we have to go through the steps at the administration level and the board first, and it's going to trickle down into the district through the parents and those who work in those areas with the staff in those locations, okay?
Okay.
Ms. Ebony Henson has something.
Okay. And just to address that as well, Ms. Leslie, all of our schools do have FOCs, which are Family Operations Coordinators. All of our Family Operations Coordinators are attending PD, which is Professional Development Training. And so sometimes it is that they are learning as they go, but there's different capacity levels depending on how long someone has been in the role. So you really have to be patient and to allow each of them to grow in their own way. But I can say, in working with them, they all do have a heart to serve our parents, to serve the community, and to do the best that they can. So I encourage all parents that are at a school that you feel the way that Ms. Leslie feels, that you team up with the FOC and just try to support one another, because we're all in it for our children, our families, our parents. And so I do know that you're a great parent that wants to advocate. You have come with a lot of skills and knowledge. So I want to encourage you to stick in there, hang in there, and just try to work together and team up.
All right.
Okay? Thanks.
Thank you, Ebony.
Okay, so I have just a couple questions about your day at the community school. You're open after hours till what time?
5:30.
Do they feed the kids, feed students dinner?
Yes, they do.
Dinner and just the students or families as well?
Well, the after-school program is mostly for the students.
It's for the students.
Yes, so they are fed.
Is that through the 21st Century program? Do you
It's
know?
through the Rutgers Ignite program.
Oh, okay, very
So
good.
they are fed and.
Okay, and other services that are provided as far as being a community school, are there like counseling sessions or mental health sessions, or? So basically it's an after-school program and a meal? Okay, all right. And you're Monday to Friday? Are you open on the weekends at all? No, it's Monday to Friday till 5:30. Okay. All right, well, that's what I kind of wanted to get, just an overall picture of how a community school day ran and what was involved in the services that were provided. parents are allowed to come in through the school throughout the day to help out, or certain parents or parents who sign up, or is? Go ahead.
Good morning. Good morning. I'm a parent. I have a child at the same school as the ladies up front and everything. And I'm as a parent volunteer, I'm allowed to go in there and use the computer to either sign up for jobs or do any type of work that I feel I need to use a computer for. I bother Miss Perez every day, all day, throwing ideas at her or bother her with anything. The parent up front, she sees me in there all the time and everything. We also, we just have a lot of things that we try to do. The parent could come in any time of day. I bother her at the end of the day when she's ready to head out and everything. I bother her so much. I call her. Okay. If she don't answer the school phone, I call her phone or something.
Okay.
I want to get in touch with you.
Okay.
Also, I come in there every day. Every day we do any and everything in there, like a little art project.
So you help with the students. You can help
Yes.
with the students?
Yes.
Okay. Oh, that's great. Okay. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, we had a hearing yesterday, and the discussion was all positive about how great community schools are and how they benefit the community plus this district itself, and certain things that were involved and what certain districts can offer and other districts, aren't offering everything that's available. But I was wondering, how your funding worked and how you got the programs that are implemented into your district, and that's what I was wondering. Go ahead.
For me, I don't understand it, I don't look at it with other parents, but what is the community school? What is the concept of it? So we do know what it is that they are saying they're supposed to offer, so then that way we can be more, hold them accountable to say this is what you're saying on the state level.
Yes.
We want to make sure that it's happening in the schools.
It's supposed to be an asset to not only the school district, but to the community for families as well as the students that are enrolled in those community schools. Yesterday, we had a spokesperson from the National Community School Association who basically talked about all the programs that can be provided, such as mental health, special meal programs, after-school programs, obviously. Tutoring, okay, yes, yeah, okay. So I didn't know that, but they talk about that? Yeah, okay. So that it's a daily reinforcer, I guess is a good way to put it, to help your kids grow and help student achievement. It's based on student achievement. That's what Mike talked about yesterday, that these schools are really focused on making your kids do a lot better than maybe they wouldn't be in a traditional public school. It depends on what that school can provide. I think that's the best way to put it. Do you want to add anything to that? Go ahead.
Before I get started, I just want to say that there's translation services available for anybody who needs that in the back. I guess the bigger picture here is that this whole idea of community schools is great in theory, but the devil's in the details, as the lady here said. I think for the most part, the goal here is to find out, and I applaud all of you for being here, because this is exactly the point, getting people in the community involved in determining what it is that the kids in that community need to enhance their ability to learn and develop and be successful. Ultimately, that's what the federal involvement is. The federal government doesn't give the state a huge amount of money compared to what we spend from the state and locally, but they have an interest in making sure that there's a consistency in terms of how educational programs are being developed. But this community schools effort is really designed to be unique to the individual communities. What you guys need in your schools, in your neighborhoods, may not be the same as what other towns that also have this program or programs like this in place. But the idea that you're involved and engaged, the process is not always clean and neat. It's messy. It involves personal interactions with individual personalities, etc., and that's all part of the game, I guess. That being said, I would recommend that you be persistent. I think the goal here is to figure out what it is that people that you're concerned about need to augment what's happening in the regular school day. And there's sort of no limit to what ultimately the community schools can offer. The idea here is to find out what's necessary to augment what happens during the regular school day. I have a 7-year-old grandson who lives with me, and you know, I was a little bit late here because I got to get him off to school in the morning and everything, and ultimately I feel like I'm going through this whole experience all over again. He's in 1st grade, and I realize when he comes home from school, school's not really over. It's over for him, he thinks, but there's homework to do, there's other things, and I think that the game plan here is to collaboratively figure out what you need for your kids to excel, and stay with the process so that working with people at the school level and other individuals who have the same mindset, you can create programs that will benefit your kids. That's really what it's all about. Is it always straightforward, and does everything always work the first time the way you want it to? Maybe it does, maybe it doesn't, but that doesn't mean you should give up. Stay at it, and I applaud all of you for being here, because that tells me that you are interested in staying at it. The fact that the state is now looking at this very idea, what does it take to make sure that kids advance and grow and learn? Is it just making sure that they're in school from 9 o'clock to 3 o'clock, or whatever the school day is, or is it broader than that? Does it involve providing services for parents who need extra help in order to help their kids grow and learn? Obviously, the lady in the back talked about having access to computers, etc. I mean, there's a whole lot of stuff that is involved in 21st century learning that everybody doesn't have equal access to. Not everybody has internet access, and not everybody has all the tools at home that replicate what kids have in school. So to the extent that you can use the facilities and use the stuff that's available to enhance your kids' learning, that's really the ballgame. The whole purpose of ESSA ultimately is to figure out a way to measure student growth and ultimately to target resources to the places that need the most resources to make sure that those kids are growing at a pace with everybody else. That's really it, in essence. From our perspective, we're just trying to make sure that every district in the state and every board has the resources to plug into you guys, because it's not me, it's not Miss Martha, it's not Sharon, it's you and the kids that you're raising that you want to excel. And when I was growing up, my father always told me that the goal was that I was supposed to do better than he did, and my kids were supposed to do better than I did. And to a certain degree, it's worked for me. I've been pretty lucky. I have a son who works here in Camden at Campbell Soup. He's a computer guy. It only took me 15 years to get him there. I mean, we had a lot of ups and downs, and I'm still paying bills for that. And I have a daughter who is she's going to be a chief resident here at Cooper Hospital. Until last year, she lived here. She lived in Camden for the last 4 years. She just moved over with some friends to Philadelphia, but she's here every day. So I live up the road in Cinnaminson, and I'm committed to making sure that what I'm learning, what I'm experiencing with my 7-year-old grandson, is reinforcing to me that there's a lot of work involved in making sure that kids learn. It's just not magic. You just don't send them to school and everything works and they know everything and they all listen to the teachers and everything the teacher says are clear. They need assistance, and every kid's different, and every kid needs different stuff. The people from Washington who talked to us yesterday at this hearing about community schools across the country talked about the fact that every community is unique, and every community has to have the involvement of people like yourself to help shape and determine, in concert with the people who are in charge, to make sure that you have the programs that you need for the students that you're interested in to learn and grow, with the game plan that they're going to be working at Campbell Soup and they're going to be doctors at Cooper Hospital someday. And that's really what it's all about. Other than that, I don't have a whole lot to add. The situation in Trenton, I work directly with the state legislature and to a lesser degree people in Washington. It's, at this time of year, pretty chaotic. The governor proposes a budget to the legislature, which is his idea of what the state should be spending on a bunch of things, including education. The legislature takes the governor's budget proposal and basically tears it apart and puts it back together again. Because we have a new governor, there's a lot of uncertainty about some of the things he's proposed in terms of what the legislators think are appropriate allocations of resources. We've been attending budget hearings. There's a new education commissioner. I had the pleasure of meeting him. We actually, I was in the State House last week, and as he was, and we left, and we had to walk a block down West State Street. I was walking back to my office, and he was walking to the governor's office, and we had a chance to talk about some of these very things, and he agreed. He was recently the superintendent in Asbury Park, and he had great success in enhancing student achievement. This is what everybody's focused on. You can get past the first tier of the discussions about what the courses are, et cetera, but ultimately, how do we figure out and how do we measure how our kids are learning, and what can we do to assist? That's really the goal here. It's not exactly the same in every school. It's not exactly the same in every house. Every student brings different strengths and weaknesses, and the process that everybody seems to be focused on is how do we identify what those things are and work with the kids to make sure that they have a fighting chance to be successful. And that's it, essentially. And there's a bunch of people in Trenton now who seem to be really honing in on that. The idea that it's not about the big picture, it's about individual students. And how do we connect with the students, and how do we connect with the parents, and how do we structure a system that gets us there? And for the third time, I'll say, I applaud all of you because you're here on the front lines. You showed up, you're involved, and that's important. The more people locally in the community get engaged in this process, the better off we all are, because the more clearer picture we have of what the needs are and what the concerns are. And the more clear the picture becomes, the easier it is to allocate the resources to target the things that everybody wants to do. Go ahead.
On the website, I found a letter that I think all of you received. It was to parents and families, and it sort of explains the need for school improvement for targeted and comprehensive support and improvement. And if you're not sure what that means, the schools that are categorized in the performance level of the lowest 5% are in need of comprehensive support, and then a little bit above that, between 5 and 10%, are targeted support. What comprehensive support means is that they take the entire school and go into the school and try to revamp it to improve either the curriculum and how the students are performing. The targeted support takes a school that doesn't have the entire school as an issue, but a subgroup. And a subgroup could be a minority group, Spanish students, Latino students that don't speak English, or any type of special ed type subgroup, that they would just work with the group itself. Okay, so you received this in January, and it says to parents and families, and it just basically says that that in the coming months they were going to be working with the specific schools that were in need of support. So that's part of ESSA. Okay, yeah, do you want to see it? Because yeah, it's on your website. That's where I found it. Basically, what used to happen before ESSA, it was what we called the regional achievement centers, and you had a RAC system that came into specific schools and dealt with the school. Now, the problem with the RAC was that there was not a good communication system between the school itself and what the RAC staff was doing in the school and the school district itself. Am I correct? Okay. So now a plan goes into place when they start to do this support system, and the plan is supposed to be implemented by the district itself. That's presented to the Department of Education. They approve the plan, and then everybody's involved, okay, including parents, okay? So you would be, if it's your student in one of these schools, I would assume that you're going to get a letter to say, we're coming into this school, this is the plan that we have proposed, and this is what we'll be doing. If it's a certain group, then there would be a parent to that certain group. So the whole idea of ESSA is to be more communicative to the parents and families. When I have a stakeholder engagement meeting, it's education associations, it's the PTA, it is from parent associations, as other parent associations as well, so that everybody's on board with what is happening to enhance the student achievement part of ESSA. And who has any questions about that? Anybody?
Just get a copy of the link once it's all over?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Make sure, Leslie, before
Go ahead.
we leave, they can read out the link.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a little bit lengthy, but the letter is from the Deputy Superintendent, Ms. McCombs.
I tried to call her because what I wanted to do was find out what they had been doing, but I couldn't get an answer. Nobody answered the phone. So I'm trying to figure out, when you get that letter, then what goes into place as far as how the plan is proposed, what goes to the Department of Ed, if it's been approved yet. It could be that they're waiting for the Department of Ed to approve it, and then it goes into place. So since it's January, I would assume that probably it'll be implemented for the next school year, for 18-19. I'm not sure if it would have happened for this year, but she says in the coming months, so it could be that it's happening. So anyway, that's part of the difference from what was and now from what is. Okay, yes, I forgot.
So you heard me say that Ms. McCombs and I met along with someone from her staff, and we talked about what was needed from what the federal level and the state level calls for. Now that Ms. McCombs is in the leadership position right now, because our superintendent is out on family leave, by giving that to her, she went directly to the person she needed to that's involved in that area, and a corrective action plan has been put in place. Now, I'm seeing this letter for the first time, and I'm sure that maybe some of you have not seen it or gotten a copy of it either. So, but I would say that by the time June comes, we will be on track with making sure. That's why when we do the trainings, we take you step by step so you can begin to understand what it is that's needed, what we have to do, and then the procedures that we want you to be able to do as a parent advocate. And that's why I say to you, we need you to be involved in your school with the leadership team. And because, as they're saying, each school is different. So you need the leadership team that's in your school. You have to work with the rest of the parents in your school. When you come to trainings, you go back and you turnkey that in your individual school, because every school is going to be different in what their needs are. So you at your school have to be that parent to work along with the rest of them, and you'll be the leadership. Your names will be put on documents saying that you are the leadership and that you will be working along with your principal and that individual school. And the one thing I've been saying to you is what we need to do is our superintendent has to let the principals know this is a must. If money is coming into your school through Title I, and we have Title II for professional development, and you've got English language learners, IDEA, all of those areas have to be covered, and parents must be a part of that. So the one thing that we know is that we're going to be working very closely as a team. When I say a team, that's all of us, along with the board and the staff that is in the school district. So you're hearing, I have the documentation that we're talking about, and I can share that with you now that the ESSA is out. I couldn't do that before because we needed to see what the state was going to put in place before we could share that.
All right, so I found the website. When you go to the Camden K-12 website, /family_resources, and that's where it is. It comes right up. Oh, there it is. Oh, okay. It's okay. So it's / you know what? I'm gonna email it to you. I'll email you the address so you can get to it. But I'm gonna tell you how I found it. I put in Google, how does ESSA affect Camden City School Districts? And it came right up. That was the first thing that came up. So.
Yeah, I think the most important thing for all of you is to begin from the premise that there's information that you need in order to do the things we just talked about. And putting together in concert with people from the district at whatever level, the list of sort of how do I get this information? Where do I find stuff on the website? Who's the person to talk to, et cetera, and put together sort of your own little booklet that answers baseline questions. When I worked for a while in Atlantic City, and I had a guy, an attorney from a law firm that represented the organization, tell me that my problem was that I didn't know what I didn't know. And I said, all right, I hear that. My question to you is, how do I know you're the person to tell me? But the bottom line is that at the end of the day, all of us have questions. We're not sure. And I think it's important not to just hold on to those questions, but ask people. Ask people how they found out, or what they're doing, or what services are available, or what the district offers, and try to match them up with the things that you believe your kids need. And in the process, you create a dialogue that's productive, because there's often an instance where districts are trying to accomplish certain specific goals and objectives, but they may not have communicated them in a way that you understand, or you may not have communicated back that it is working or it isn't working. So the idea that you have this ongoing dialogue where you talk about, here's where we are. Sharon read a list of the improvements that have been made. So obviously things are moving in the right direction here, but on that continuum of progress, you can always get better. You can always do better than you did before. And I guess the way to make sure that occurs is to be directly engaged in the process and understand what it is, and understand what role you can play in advocating for your kids in a way that gets you the answers to the questions you often have. That's the best way to move forward, and do it in a constructive way. It's not us against them. It's all of us working together to figure out how do we take those scores and make them even better next year, and how do we put ourselves in a position where people are coming to Camden and saying, how did you guys do it? How did you improve? How did you develop these outcomes? In the process of working towards those goals, it's interesting what happens. The engagement process, it not only rubs off on the parents, but it rubs off on the kids, because there's an incentive for them to beat their own standards and to do even better than they did before. The more you stay at it, the better you get. And I think that it's a credit to the board and the district for wanting to have this engagement, and part of your job is to make sure it continues.
The other important thing that we're missing, that we're working on to have put things back in place, you don't have the parent center that we had before. Before, we had 4 trailers over at Pine Point, and they're no longer there. But we know that in order for you to have the resources that you need, as we're talking about, there's no reason that there should not be a family center where computers are set up in that room. So when you would leave from this venue today, or whenever you choose, you would be able to go to the family center, and you would be able to go online and do research. Those are the things that we used to do at the Parent Center. We would bring you in, teach you how to go online, teach you how to go into the Department of Education's website, and then you can do research for yourself, because everybody is interested in different things, but the knowledge base is there. So the fact that we were moved out of our location, we changed from community school coordinators to FOCs, that's been a lot of change that has taken place in this district. But I want to commend you, because as the parents, you have still stayed a part of and connected working with your FOCs. That is commendable, because a lot of times when change happens, people can't adjust to it. If it's not what they're used to, they don't continue to push themselves forward. But on behalf of our children, we have to do that. So at this time, I understand we have a young lady here by first name Lydia, who is a part of Wiggins School. Could you raise your hand? Would you come forth and you can give us, with your parent, a little bit of information of what goes on in the schools that you're at.
Well, I know she was saying about the parent center. We do have a parent center at Wiggins where it's family services, Center for Family Services is in there. And I know like we can go in there if we need anything. They have a shop right online where we go in there, we could shop. Because I know like with me having multiple children, multiple ages in my home, sometimes I might go food shopping and be like, oh my God, I forgot to get spaghetti sauce. So I could go into the Family Service Center and I could order whatever I need to order. And also Miss Lydia, like she keeps us informed on everything. And you know, like if you have a problem, because I was in a situation at the beginning of the school year, because I have custody of my grandson, he's, you know, kind of, one day he's up, one day he's down. And she's so involved with the children that she knows when something's wrong. So she went to my grandson and she's like, what's wrong? He's like, nothing. And she says, yes, it is, come here. She said, what do you need, a hug? She gave him a hug and he ran down the hall like nothing was wrong with him. So she is very involved. And then we also have, like they were saying, the after school program in which my grandson goes. And they really are involved with the kids. And she's there in the morning when I drop him off. And sometimes I don't come get him till exactly 6 o'clock. And she's still in there. And like they teach them. And when they was, one particular story they read my grandson was about sharks. So he's so involved in the food, like what they feed him. You ask him, well, what did they feed you today? Oh, we had sharks. So it's like they really get involved with the kids. And I mean, she's a great person. She really does help you out. Anything you need, you go to her. She helps out a lot. And then like sometimes you might even be feeling down. What's wrong with you? Pick that, where your smile at? And she really makes you feel welcome when you walk into the school. And that's what a lot of us need, because sometimes as parents, you don't know what we're going through. And we're trying to be strong for our kids. And then when you have people in the school that's behind you, that also encourage you to want to bring your child, but be like, okay, because I know, I'm going to be honest, back in the day, because my oldest child is 30 and my youngest is 10. And I had when Camden schools was doing bad, I had a bad experience. I said, well, I'll never put none of my kids back in public schools. But now I'm seeing the change, I'm seeing the turnaround, I'm seeing how they're really trying to focus more on the kids' education.
Thank you, Lydia.
Okay, y'all can see I'm a little nervous being up here, but I'm gonna get it. I'm Miss Lydia, I'm the FOC at Wiggins. I just wanted to let you guys know, for the parents, if you don't speak, we don't know. But I'm pretty sure every FOC that is in place now, they're more than willing to help. As an FOC at my school, we have, like Mom mentioned, we have ShopRite, but we also partner with Promise Neighborhood, where we have the YMCA work with us, and we have a second after-school program, Urban Promise. So we have 2 camps that work at our site. We also have the ShopRite. Basically, I'm in it for the kids and the families. Whatever they need, I'm there. They all have my regular cell phone number. And to the parents, I just want you guys to understand, if you guys don't speak to us, I'm there every day in my school. So my thing to you is, I'm pretty sure that every FOC here, you explain what it is you need, they're going to be more than willing to help you guys. We are a community school. Before I forget to say, we are a community school. I love my job, and I love helping the families. She is one of my parents that is always there, and she knows I'm there for the kids and the families.
So I like to really piggyback on, like we were saying, what's important about what's taking place as far as the transition within the school. And like what is really the point that I hope that we truly understand as far as parents. For instance, just like Wiggins does have extra support as far as extra finances, you know what I'm saying? But like what they're saying about the community schools is this, is that as you as parents get involved in that individual schools who may not have that extra resources, then you go and you tell the unions that you want these same kind of services that Wiggins is getting, because they're getting extra outside support and resources, you know what I mean, to support more wraparound services for your children. So again, what's happening there? They're getting extra resources to do that. The other part to that is that we, as on this level, is also on the district in reference to releasing the funds that's already in the schools for you guys to be able to make sure that you have more wraparound services. So again, these meetings are very important because again, trying to get parents to know and understand that resources, whether it's in the school, whether it's like at this point you have more of the NJEA is willing to really supposedly add in additional resources, we have to hold these individuals accountable. So that's what I like to say with that. We have to want to model what's good about this school and make sure that it's happening in all these schools, that's community schools, that they're providing these services that we know our children need.
Thank you, Mr. Barfield. We also, yes, Leslie.
I just wanted to say that we're, like, even though we ran into a barrier, we're not stopping, and we're not going to let that stop us. We're so happy and excited to move forward. We're not going to let that stop us. So I'm happy that I have parents that support, and I'm happy that you let us know to utilize our partnerships, because that's another idea that we didn't think of. And with us forming this PTO at Dudley, we're going to also try and raise additional funds for Dudley. So we're in a move forward position, and we're not going to just let it stop us.
Thank you, Leslie. So, not only do we have conversation around the ESSA, we also have the IDEA called Perkins Grant, early childhood. Those are other questions. If you have anything in those areas that we can have Sharon or Mike talk to you about. I go to those conferences. I get the information, and normally I come back and I turnkey. This year, because of the directions that we've been dealing with in the district, I think that it is huge to have someone from New Jersey School Boards here, because it's like everything else. Sometimes you can preach in your own area, and the people don't believe what you say. So then you, and I'm not alone, I don't, because Jesus went through the same thing. So I feel as though it's important for you to hear it from the mouths of those who are at New Jersey School Boards. And we work together, we work very closely together. This year, I just came back from the National School Boards Association, and I serve as a delegate in the state of New Jersey. This year, I was asked to serve on behalf of New Jersey as a delegate for the first time at the annual meeting. So the information that we're dealing with is fighting on behalf of our parents. But I think it's important for you to hear from our constituents, and that means a lot, that they come down here for me.
Well, actually, we feel the same, because we like to hear from you. We like to hear your questions and what you're going through. And you two should have been at our hearing yesterday, so you could have talked about what you're doing in your schools, because we hear from our side of it, but we don't hear from what's going on internally so much. So that was really enlightening what you just talked about. And I can't thank Martha enough for inviting Mike and I. I think this is great that we come here. I hope you get some value out of our conversation. And if you have any questions, you're welcome to email us or call us, and we'll definitely help you out.
Yeah, I guess to echo what Ms. Martha just said, there are a lot of other things that are going on out there. There's a lot of focus now on the fact that not every student is going to go to college. Some kids want to go into a more technical area that requires some advanced training, but it doesn't require a four-year degree. And the Perkins Act that she mentioned is federal money that is made available to states to provide for assistance for kids who want to go to career and vocational schools. And I think the state is getting ready to make like $500 million available in the form of money to enhance and embellish existing facilities and expand vocational opportunities for students. It's important to know that, because a lot of the things that are going to be worthwhile occupations in the future don't require master's degrees, et cetera, but they require some sound technical training, and looking at the educational programs in our schools and how they're leading students towards that is also important. There's a real lack of middle skilled individuals in the state now. The people who do construction, who do electrical and plumbing and that kind of work are in short supply. And the focus now, at least at the state level, is on making the resources available to guarantee that we have those people in the future. So we want to focus on student achievement with the idea that kids are college ready, but we really want to make sure that kids are career ready. And there's a lot of entities in the private sector who are now engaged in looking at what do we have to do to help work with the educational system to guarantee that the kids who come out of those systems are going to be able to work in the opportunities that we're going to provide. So I think it's important to think about that as well. And part of this whole educational environment is a two-way street. You as parents need to be able to find out what the resources are. I mean, one of the things that I had the hardest time with when I was growing up is figuring out what I was going to do when I grow up. And I'm still asking myself that question. I think that a lot of other kids do too, and they just automatically assume that their choices are limited, and they're not, especially now, because there's a lot of people who want to put resources behind students, especially in urban districts, to make sure that they have a fair shot at successful careers. And I think it's important to take advantage of that. So the money that's available from the federal government that filters through the state, somebody's got to spend it. So organizing yourselves at the community level to come up with a list of things that you need and communicating those to the people who are making the decisions about resource allocation puts you on the direct path to make sure that you get some of those resources. And that's part of what this game is really all about, right? So, I mean, it's important to keep these dialogues going. And in my opinion, there are no stupid questions. There's just a lot of stupid answers sometimes. But keep asking the questions and keep inquiring about. The most important question for me isn't why. It's, all right, I get why. I know what I want to do. How do I get there? And those kinds of questions are critical, because the more of those questions that you ask, the more positioned people on the administrative side are positioned to understand, all right, now I've identified what the need is. People want to know, how do I do this? How do I do that? How do I configure the way this whole thing is structured to guarantee that the people who need answers to those questions are getting them? And if they're getting the answers to those questions, it can't help but enhance the performance of their students. And at the end of the day, that's what it's all about, student achievement.
The handout that you just received was testimony that we gave yesterday at the Joint Committee hearing about the community schools. So I just wanted to let you know that was our position. That's what we believe that is definitely an asset to the community and to the school district. And we just like to make sure that oversight is where it should be. That's all. Yeah. But I can do that for you. Sure. Oh yeah. Okay. I'll make sure that happens for you. Okay. Yeah. That's. Thanks for asking. Does anybody have any questions about anything? Yes.
I just have one more question, because on ESSA it says that parents can submit comments with the school's improvement and the district's improvement plan. I just wanted to know, when is the improvement plan due? And
That's a good question.
Submit comments, because we're actively trying to shape this thing for Dudley Park. And in going through our experience, we have suggestions.
You have it right
And a
now.
lot of information to
DOE,
share with
yeah.
other PTOs.
I have to discuss with the Department of Education. I'm not really sure what your timeline is.
Last year, they were due at the end of
The
the summer,
summer, right.
before the school year started.
Yeah.
But that was because they were transitioning into this new federal framework. I'll have to find out.
Yeah,
I don't know.
we'll find out.
The other piece, the other answer to that, in the past, when we went through the CUSAC report, there is a piece in there for parents and we wrote up the areas that the parents, we had a meeting, we dealt with certain areas, and then the parents would say, this is what we would like, this is what we need, this is what we don't need. And those things were written up and became a part of the CUSAC report for the school district. So that's something that I'm looking forward to making sure that happens again. Where, like I said, right now we're in the midst of some changes, but I believe to continue to walk by faith and not by sight, and what we need, we put out there, and then that's how we begin to make it happen. Us unified as a group of parents within the city of Camden, or any school district, that's your power, parent power. So we know that we wanted to have what we called a parent university. The administration took on the name, and they've been doing some things over at the Kroc Center. But we believe in putting the things in order where we need it for the parents. So we've been doing a parent training, I believe it's the first Wednesday of every month. And that's how you've come to the point that when we speak about things now, you can identify what we're talking about. So we are going to continue that through the rest of this year, and we're even going to have trainings during the summer months, because soon you will need to have an election for who you want to be the president of the DPAC. And then I can stay in my place with parental involvement, and you can do what you need to do with the DPAC, and I will be there to help and assist you at the administrative level to walk us through it. Okay? So.
Yes, I want to go back to what was mentioned about the Perkins grant and the vocational programs. Now, again, as far as parents, I don't know if any of the parents have actually went through and looked at these Camden enrollment books. The Camden enrollment books really identifies a lot of what these schools are offering your child. I mean, I believe as parents, we should be looking to put our children in the best situation where they're going to perceive on what they want to do with their career. Now, as far as vocational, even with most of these charter schools and Renaissance schools, they don't offer vocational programs. So I'm saying that to say that at this point now, because just like the gentleman spoke, that there's going to be $50 million allocated for vocational programs, helping increase and improve these particular programs and build facilities. As we know, Camden High, we had a vocational building that was demolished. So now that CT program is over at Woodrow Wilson, those individual classrooms for those different areas need resources. So I'm saying that to say that as far as firsthand understanding and knowing that we are going to have to advocate for better service, a better curriculum, because some of our children are not going to get into Camden County vocation. Some of our children who are classified as special needs, they're definitely being denied that. Most of our children that are in alternative programming, they're not going to be going to college. So at this point as parents, we really have to be mindful, what is life going to be after high school for our children? If our children don't have no kind of certification, no skills, then what are they going to resort to? We know that it's a competitive world out here. So I'm saying that to say that this vocational program, this vocational funding that's going to be come out, if we as residents in here aren't out there at the State House advocating for what Camden needs for our children are going to be left out. So I definitely wanted to put that on the radar, because that is something that's down the pipeline. Like I'm saying, the fact that even though we have the CT program over there, the facilities over there is not as big as when we had Camden High Vocational School. So it's a lot of cramp, it's a lot of things that and then the main part to this is the curriculum. We need the different levels, tiers. So if anybody understands about vocational, you have to be, Pensacola Vocational, you have to be, spend like 3 years in a particular area. So you go on different tiers. You got tier 1, tier 2, tier 3. We have to make sure that what's being offered at Woodrow Wilson now, because that's where it's at. I'm still, in my heart, I'm still, heard about Camden High, But by it being at Woodrow Wilson, we got to make sure that that program works for our children. So I'm saying that to say that we have to make sure that those children, when they're spending those years over there and having and looking for alternative education, that they have the resources that they need that can prepare them so when they get out of school, they can further their education to a career and get some kind of certification so they can make livable wages. So again, if you look through this book, it's very important. It's a lot of information, but at least it lets you know what these schools are offering your children and then what best fits for your child. And then, like I said, those that we know that most of our children will probably benefit from vocational programming, then again, if our children don't fit that mold at Camden County Vocational, then we know that we have one in Camden City, Woodrow Wilson, that we need to make sure that they have the resources and the material they need so they can succeed.
Thank you, Mr. Barfield. The other area that we were running into this year was parents would have their children in charter schools, and then they were saying they weren't getting the services that they needed. So when you place your children in a school, you need to make sure the services that you need for your child is there, because you don't always have the wraparound services. And then the reason I know is because we would have parents coming to the board meeting that were upset because they were not able to get it. But those services you would have to go to your board at the school that your child is at to make that happen, not at the Camden City Board of Education if they're no longer a part of public school. So next year, school starts in September. If you feel you're not getting what you need at the school you have your child in now, then you really should think about relocating them to a school that can give them the services that they need. Would you like to speak on any other area as far as special needs, IDEA, or you're good? I think you've covered what you need.
Just know that when we go to Washington, what Martha talked about before and the topics that were discussed and Mike discussed, those are what we take to Congress, to the congressional representatives, to the congressmen, to their staff, to the Senate, to their staff. And a lot of the conversation always leads to special education and special needs issues because, again, New Jersey is known to provide awesome programs for special education. And people purposely move here to take advantage of those programs. So we need to make sure that we have the funds to cover it so that it doesn't become a burden to the district, but they're able to cover these programs.
The last thing that I would add is simply this. The state spends a huge amount of money on public education, as do local taxpayers. In fact, the state spends more money on public education than anything else. That being said, the people in Trenton have finally figured out that no matter how much they make available, it's never going to be enough. So a lot of the frameworks that have been created by the federal government with ESSA and at the state level are trying to figure out how do we prioritize the money that we have available. How do we make sure that the money is getting to the places where it's most needed? And part of that is being able to do accurate assessments of needs at the community level and being proactive in terms of asking for things and specifying what it is that you need puts you at the top of the list, because there's a lot of other places where people aren't as organized and aren't spending the time to identify what the learning needs of their students are. To the extent that the state has prioritized resources for places like your city, it's in your best interest to make sure that you're fine-tuning that list of needs, because there's going to be money available. It may not be all the money that you always want, but the state is going to first give that money to the places that have their act together and know exactly how they want to target resources and have a plan in place that guarantees that it's going to be applied in a way that's directed towards making students improve their academic outcomes. So to the extent that you keep this focus, that should inform all your future activities, because you know, the old adage, ask and you shall receive, it's not always 100% true, but there are a lot of resources. There's billions of dollars in resources from the federal, state, and local levels that are being put behind this stuff, and people want to spend the money. So give them a chance to allocate it in a way that makes sense for the kids in your community.
Thank you, Mike. So as we continue to move forward, next month, we don't have a date set for a parent training, but May 2nd is a Wednesday. So we're going to look into that date, and if so, you will get a robocall or something through an email, a flyer from staff from Ms. Henson's office to let you know that that date will be taking place and the location we will be at. Next month's DPAC meeting is May 10th. Same thing. You'll get the information as a robocall and as a flyer. And I would just like to thank each one of you who really take the time to come out on behalf of the Camden City School District and your children. I'd like to thank Ms. Ebony Henson, who is actually, her title is Senior Manager for Family Schools and Community Partnerships. So we work very closely together because her parents is my parents, is our parents. We're all here together. I would love to see the day when we're all back under one umbrella instead of having to be cut up into different sections for numbers. We all are one. And when we start functioning that way on behalf of our children actually will be the ones who will benefit from that the most. So I'm going to say to you, thank each and every one of you for being here. I want to thank Ms. Sharon Seiler, Mr. Mike Vernick. They come, if they, like they said, if you need them, they will come. On a general, we normally ask them for November and April. But if there is something that's going on that we really need them, they will be here. And with that, that's a blessing for us. Remember the handbook that the parents put together? That handbook helped to generate and jumpstart where we are today. No, I'm talking about the fact of the handbook. We sent it to New Jersey school boards, and I asked them to look at it to see what was in that book that we had that needed to be changed for ESSA. Through that, they reached out to someone at the Department of Ed.
It's Karen Campbell, and she has it at the moment still?
No, she came in.
Oh, okay. Okay, so I didn't even know what exactly happened. I gave it to her, and she said, I will take care of it. And basically, that's what's been going on. So
that's part of the movement that you're feeling. From, once again, the Parents' Handbook that was put out 2012, 2013. It was time to be updated because ESSA made changes from No Child Left Behind. We moved it from Camden City to New Jersey school boards, to the State House, to the Department of Education. And so now we see the changes because I know Ms. Campbell came in and spoke with some of our staff. And so we're moving forward now. So I just want to say thank you to each and every one of you for being here. God bless. And this meeting is now adjourned.